All right. Hey, I don't even know what today is. Wednesday. I'm live here in the Facebook group, but we're also going to air this episode on the podcast. So if you're watching on YouTube or on the podcast, show notes are going to be at apurposedrivenmom.com/podcast 444. When I'm recording this live, I think the message will be just as timely as when when it airs in February, because it's the second week of January. But it's coming out in February when I think you'll need it too. And I want to talk to you today about what do you do when you feel like you've already quit on some of the goals that you've perhaps set for yourself for the new year. I was reading something the other day and it said that the second Friday of January is known as quit day. And it's when most people will quit on their resolutions or their goals. And that's fast approaching in real life. But also, I think it's timely when this comes out in February, because right around February is also where you get that second wave. I'm really excited about my goals. These are the things that I want to get done. And then we quit again and figure I'll just do it again next year. I want to give you a little pep talk today on what do you do if you find yourself already giving up, already quitting, already saying, I can't do this because it's too much. Because I'm going to give you a hint. I think that you probably put too much on your plate. I think that it feels too much because you put too much on your plate. And I want to show you how you can audit through your goals, take some things off your plate right now so that you can actually make some progress. All right. Now, I want you to look at the goals that you set for yourself so far this year. Start with step one, which is make a list of what you have achieved towards the goals you said you were going to work on. Now, the way that I teach goal setting is not that you work on all of your year goals in January. So you can do this if you want, if you've done it that way, or if you're like, all right, I'm only working on my January goals. Doesn't matter to me how you're looking at it, but I just want to make sure you're looking at it strategically. So what I'm going to do is go through and look at the goals I said I was going to work on in quarter one, the goals I said I was going to work on in January. Again, if you didn't break it down this way, you might want to start with, hey, this is what I said I was going to do in 2025 so far. And I want you to start with making a list of all the things you've accomplished to move towards that goal. Not completed it. Maybe you did. Heck, maybe you're like, I set a goal for myself to do this one thing. I did it on day one. Excellent. Wonderful. But instead, before we say the sky is falling, nothing is working, what we're actually going to do is step back a little bit and ask ourselves, what have you already done towards the goal? Okay, so you start with the list of these are the things I've done towards my goal so we can celebrate. I teach a 5-step goal process. And the first one is really about the reflection. And that's where we're at now. Okay, reflect so far. How is it going? How are things feeling? What steps did you make? You said you wanted to lose 5 pounds this month. Okay, what steps have you made towards that? You said you were going to read 12 books this year. How many pages have you read so far? And I want you to do this without judgment. I want you to do this without feeling like, well, I didn't read any pages so far this year. Because that's not the point of step one of reflection. Step one of reflection, the point here is actually to stop yourself and audit. If you are auditing your goals as you're going throughout the year, you're going to be in a much better spot when you get later on in the year. What happens a lot is we don't stop, we don't reflect, we don't audit. And then we get to December, realize we said we were going to do this thing, and either scramble and hustle and try to get it done or quit. Instead, regular checkpoints is my recommendation. So what we're doing here, this is a regular checkpoint. All right. I know that I said that I was going to save. Okay, so one of my January goals is to add $1,000 extra to what we currently have in our emergency savings. That was one of mine. So as I'm auditing in real time today that I'm recording this, what is it, January 8th, right? I have asked myself, what steps have I made to add to that? Well, I've added $100 to that emergency savings. Okay, great, right? My goal was to finish that in January. My goal was to push forward in January and just build that back up. So now we're going to move to step two. Okay, so we'll do this finance goal for me, for example, but I want you to pick, a goal that you're working on. All right, so I made that step. All right, what are some other things that maybe aren't measurable, but are anecdotal that I've done towards those goals? Well, I put $100 in savings, which is good. Anecdotally, or also, it could be data driven. I've tracked all of my expenses and savings so far this month. I know where it is. I've stuck to our budgets. I've also, this isn't about saving that extra $1,000, but I've started and put some money in investments, right? I read a book on finance. It's the 8th, and I finished a book that I'd started it before break, but I read a book on finance, right? So see how it's not just, I said I was going to save $1,000, the only progress I'm checking in on is the $1,000, right? It's not just that. Yes, you want to check in on the end goal, the outcome-based goal. I want personally, I would like to lose 30 pounds this year, okay? So I do want to check on the end outcome goal. How much weight have I lost, right? So I think I've lost half a pound, whatever, since the year started. Great. So that's my outcome-based goal. But then I also want you to make a list of the other progress-based goals that you've made towards this. What this does is reframe your brain from feeling so overwhelmed, thinking about your failures, thinking about the things you haven't done, but instead says, okay, well, maybe I haven't done these things, but I have done these things. Maybe I haven't shown up in this way, but I did show up in this way. And that feels really aligned. That feels really good to me. Okay. So you're going to start with step 1, reflection. How has it been going? What have I made progress towards in the actual outcome of completing the goal, and also the progress and the habits of showing up for the goal? Okay. Now what you're going to ask yourself, and again, you could do this for each of your goals for this month or the year. I recommend you do this every single month when you're doing making your goals for the next month, right? Then what I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself, all right, what's my vision? This is step 2. So what is my vision for this goal? I'm going to use the finance example throughout this whole thing as a nice little one goal we'll work on. So what is my plan? All right, so my vision for the rest of the month, because again, if I'm recording this at the beginning of the month, I'm trying to see how I want the rest of the month to go. Maybe it's a mid-month check-in, whatever. For the rest of the month, my vision is still, and again, you have to ask yourself, is the vision still what you said the vision was when you set the goal? Because the vision might change. And when the vision changes and we don't adjust our plan, that's when we start to feel frustrated. We start to feel defeated. We start to feel like we can't do anything. We start to feel like we're just really out of control. So instead of, I'm keeping my vision the same, I might say, you know what? Looking at where I've been for the finances, paying attention to it, maybe the goal of adding the $1,000 by the end of the month isn't the vision anymore. Maybe it's adding $500. I don't know, right? If I'm thinking for myself, it's not. I'm going to probably keep my vision the same because I front loaded all of the stuff out of my first pay that we need for the month. So next pay really is quote unquote surplus for the month. Could it go ahead to paying February budget stuff? Yes, but I really want to put it aside for this emergency. So that might be my plan. Okay, so what's the new vision moving forward that you have for this goal based on what you've accomplished so far? And again, you don't have to do this process every week, but at least it's helpful to do it mid-month. It's helpful definitely for your month goals, and it's helpful to do it at the end of the month for your year goals as well. Okay, so step 2 is, what's the vision? Okay, so I'm going to say my vision is I'm still going to keep the goal at adding that $1,000. I really feel like even though we have 20 something days left in the month, I have a plan. I feel good about it. I think we can still do it. Okay, I'm going to keep that. All right, so I've reflected, I've visioned. Step 3 is now auditing and adjusting your plan. So now I want you to go through that goal that you already feel starting to waffle and say, based on the new vision I wrote, what is my new plan for this? How am I going to get there? This is where I'm going to adjust. So originally my plan was, and I'll do it on my phone. Let me grab my calculator. So my plan was $250 a week, because 1,000 divided by 4 is $250 a week. If I add $250 a week into the pay, then it will be fine and I'll be able to hit it. Now I've only added 1,000. So I need to now adjust the goal for the remaining, what do we have? 3 weeks left in the month? Yeah, 3 weeks left in the month. Now, what I'm going to do for this then is I'm going to change the math. I wanted to have $1,000 in my savings. I've only put $100 in my savings. I have $900 left to spend. I still feel confident that I can hit this goal at the end of the month. I'm still driving towards it. Now I might check in next week and change it. I don't know. And so now I need to readjust. Instead of dividing my number by 4, because there were originally 4 weeks, I'm dividing it by 3. 900 divided by 3 is 300. So my goal went from saving $250 a week to saving $300 a week. It's a tiny jump, right? It's $50 more, but because I'm auditing as I go, it's going to be less of a jump than if I got to January 31st and was like, oh, I need to find $1,000 today. No, I need to find $300, right? This upcoming week. All right. So now I've audited and I've adjusted my plan. That's the end goal plan. That's the outcome plan. What I also need to audit and adjust is my progress plan. So how am I going to get here? All right. Now, you might have to go through for this. I might say, okay, I said I was going to make X amount of dollars. For me, I have a variable income. Maybe I didn't make the money I thought I was going to make. So I might have to adjust the plan and say, okay, I'm going to take a one-on-one client. I'm going to do a side hustle thing. One of the things I decided that I'm going to start doing in this new year is some DoorDash and like side hustle things to just pay off our debt and start putting more in investment, right? Like my pay covers our bills, but I want to start getting ahead more. And in order to get ahead more, I need to make more income. And I thought about it today and I was like, you know what? My daughter's at practice on Wednesdays for 2 hours. I just got approved for it. I was like, I'm just going to do it for 2 hours. Like I could go home or I could drive around and do this. So we're going to see. I'll report back. But okay, I'm going to pick up more hours. I'm going to cut back in this area, right? So for me personally, like for finance goals, right, you have two options. You either cut back or you make more. Those are like the only like two things you can do. So what I'm also going to do is, okay, how am I adjusting the plan of the how I'm going to get there? I'm actually going to make some phone calls to some of our bills. I haven't called them in like forever to see if we can get our like interest rates adjusted or even like our monthly payments adjusted. So I'm going to call. Yesterday I made a call to my bank to get a fee waived and I was like, feel really empowered. I'm like, I can do it. So I'm really trying to think like, okay, if I save, so my thought process on that is if I save X amount of money on our monthly bill, then I could put X amount towards, something else. So I might do that. I might say, okay, next week, I'm going to adjust our grocery budget because I still want to hit that goal. So this is actually what I did in real time this upcoming week was I took $50 that I had put aside for groceries. I put more than $50 aside for groceries, but whatever the amount was, I think it was like $250 I put aside for the week for groceries. I was like, I still want to make the 50, like I still want to put money away. So I'm going to move the $50 directly now into my emergency savings. And I'm going to figure out how to spend $200 or whatever the math was on groceries this week. I'm very capable of doing it. I just have to be intentional about it because I know me, if I say I have a $250 grocery budget for the week, I'm going to spend $250. If I say I have a $200 grocery, I'm going to be a little more creative and I'll stick under that. Like I need that limit. So maybe that's the adjusting that part of the plan, right? It's like how I'm going to get there, how I'm going to be creative about it. When you do these things, and not wait to the end of the month, not wait to the end of the year. You audit as you go. You're being a student of your goals. You're more involved in them. But also what you're doing is you're adjusting as you go so that it's not this huge shock of like, oh no, I got to get these things done, right? All right, so I went through, I reflected, I did my vision, I readjusted my plan. Steps 4 and 5 of the goal process. This is accountability, right? So I need some accountability. So I'm going to ask myself, what accountability and supports did I put in for my goals so far for the finances? I have 2. One is like my husband. We're on like a really good page about this. Like we're really focused on this. So checking in with my husband. And the other is TikTok. If you aren't on TikTok, come find me, Purpose Driven Mom. I think there's no A. I think it's just Purpose Driven Mom on TikTok. I'm sharing all of my finance stuff on TikTok. Like literally how much I'm spending every day. It was funny because I've been like thinking I should use TikTok for my business. And I didn't want to because I enjoy TikTok as a consumer. So I just decided I'm just going to use it as a consumer. Like if I want to post about businessy stuff and tips and stuff, I will, because that's part of who I am. Like my therapist asked me the other day, she's like, is the person you are at work like the same person you are, right? Like, so some of us like expel all this energy at work and then we come home and we're tired or vice versa. And I was like, yeah, I'm like the same. I talk about the same things. I'm the exact same person. So there's a bleed for me, but I took the pressure off the business part and I was like, I'm just going to use this like Dear Diary. Here's what I spent today because I love that personal accountability. I could care less if anyone sees any of those videos. That's actually more for me. So do I have accountability? Yes. Okay, let's audit. Is it still working? Yes. If it's not, adjust. And then your 5th step is an incentive or a reward. Now, this is something I'm realizing as I'm auditing this finance goal, I don't have one. I did not pick an incentive or a reward for myself if I put that $1,000 in emergency savings. So I need to push myself to think of something. Now, I always recommend when you're picking an incentive or a reward that you don't pick something counterintuitive. So the incentive or the reward that I pick, I don't want it to be something that I'm going to buy. I want it to be something that supports that goal. Like, and again, I have other goals, right? So like my weight loss goal, if I hit my target, like I might buy myself a new pair of gym sneakers or something. Like that's not counterintuitive to that specific goal. So I always recommend. So I actually want to challenge myself. I need to think about this. I might go to ChatGPT and ask it a little bit. But what do we want our reward to be if we hit this $1,000 extra in emergency savings? And sometimes for rewards for me, it could be, it is interesting because I do want to be like, oh, I could thrift something, but it's not about the buying, right? Now, I do know that I have a $7 Amazon gift credit sitting in my account. So I could say, okay, my reward is that I'm going to spend this $7 on something for me, right? Like, because I haven't been buying as much, for me, because we're consciously spending. Maybe I do that because it's not taking from my money. It's the Amazon. But it could also be for me, like, I could also be like, oh, let me girl math some points. I have Starbucks points or Chick-fil-A points and go get myself a coffee. And as I'm thinking about it, I think if we hit this, I really would like just like to give myself like some space and time. So I think what my reward is like, I'm going to take half a day off where I get to like read and rot in my bed and like not feel guilty or bad about it and just like enjoy that. Because this is a goal me and my husband have together. We'll make a goal of, all right, if we hit this, we're gonna do this thing together. I don't know what it is. And I am now today is January 8th, but this is going to come out in the podcast in February. So again, purposedrivenmom.com/podcast 444 when this airs, if you want to check out show notes. But I'm going to think of something. I actually don't know. So I'm going to push myself to come up with an incentive for this, because I find that when I have all 5 parts of the goal process working in conjunction together, my goals are more likely to be accomplished. So what I want to encourage you to do today is pick one goal that you found yourself quote unquote quitting on already. One goal that you've already been like, it's too much, it's too hard, I don't want to do it, I'll just do it Monday already. We don't want to have that mentality. We want to have, okay, let's be a detective. This isn't working. How can I make it work? And then you're going to go through the 5-step process with that goal. You're going to reflect on what you've done, your successes, what progress you've made towards the goal, and what progress you've made showing up towards the goal. Step 2, you're going to rewrite your vision for the remaining time. Like, what do you want it to look like? And I say remaining time because, again, could be the year, the month, whatever. You're going to readjust your plan based on not only the tasks you have to complete, but how it gets done. You're going to pick a accountability channel. Doesn't have to be a person. It could be anything you want, but it could be one of those little, there's like that little Chirp, that bird app, right? Like you could have whatever you want for accountability. Like my Duolingo accountability is literally that little guy tells me I hit day 251 today, and that is enough for me, right? So whatever it is for you. And then you're going to come up with a reward that's not counterintuitive to your goals. Okay. It is so early in the year. So if you haven't even quote unquote gotten started, don't worry. It's a calendar. I want you to pretend and like live your life without worrying about the date, and just give yourself urgency. By the end of the week, by the end of a month, you can do that. But don't say, oh, it's January 8th, I haven't done these things, I'm failing. Okay? It's just a calendar. It does not matter. Just keep going. Now, I'm live here in our Facebook group. You can search Purpose Driven Mom Community. If you're not in the group and you're listening to this on YouTube or on the podcast, come here. I'm going to be doing a live every single week with some tips. And sometimes we'll also double dip them and we'll put them on the podcast later. I figured this was a good one to come out in February too, because you'll probably need to hear it again in February. And then again, you can check out the YouTube channel for Purpose Driven Mom. We'd love to have you there. We're going to be doing more in 2025 in YouTube. All right. Thank you so much. If you're in the Facebook group, I do want to support you more. So I am planning on some posts where we can do some check-ins. Feel free to ask questions. I would love to help. Otherwise, have a wonderful day and we will chat soon.